Hey, David, given that there's been so much talk about voting, in part because of the midterm election a few days ago, I want to ask you a question. What is worse, voting ignorant or not voting at all? Because you always talk about the importance of voting, but do we really want people who don't know anything going out to the polls? So this is, the framing is not unfair, but it's sort of a deceptive framing. No one is advocating that I've seen going out and voting by shooting darts, so to speak, randomly picking candidates to vote for. That, I would argue, really doesn't help anybody. But the case I would make is that even an uninformed voter turnout of 90% would force politicians to pay more attention to what people want, even if they don't always know what they want or they want things that don't make sense, than when you have 50% voter turnout, which, quite frankly, we already have filled with ignorant people and malignantly misinformed people anyway. In other words, the idea that the options are to go from we either stay at 50% voter turnout and everybody's informed, or we go to 90% voter turnout, but everybody is uninformed all of a sudden. We already have a huge percentage of the voting public completely uninformed about the issues and the candidates. You really barely need to do any research to be better informed than random choice. Doesn't mean I'll agree with you, but if we have representative democracy, it should be representative of as many votes as possible. So is the idea to convince people to vote uninformed? Like, is that the idea behind just vote, everybody vote? Of course not. But if voting is something everyone or almost everyone does by sheer osmosis, colloquially speaking, not literal osmosis, the level to which people are informed on average is going to go up. Okay. And I've actually had periods where I started thinking through ideas like, well, what about voting tests? You should at least have some level of knowledge in order to vote. And obviously that stuff would be illegal. It would never fly. And I think it would also kind of be antithetical to the spirit of democracy that the framers of the Constitution envisioned. But now I realize that absent anything else, absent a more or less informed voting public, like putting all of that stuff aside, the more votes that are cast, the more people that vote, the better off we are overall. And so I think it's a false question to even say, do we really want more people voting if they're not informed? And additionally, I would further that case by saying the following. If everybody voted, it's extraordinarily difficult for me to imagine that you would have a less informed population, because right now, because only half the country votes, by sheer chance, of course, depends where you are, a whole bunch of the people you encounter every day are non-voters, meaning they are often less engaged in the political process and less knowledgeable. If we had 90% voter turnout, even if initially you had a lot of people voting uninformed, the fact that more people are participating will increase the likelihood that you're interacting with people every day who are part of the political process. That will lead to conversation, and that will inevitably lead to people who are more engaged, aware, and informed. It doesn't mean we will agree with the conclusions they come to, but that's sort of a second layer argument. And the most important thing is, if we want our elected representatives to be accountable to us, the more of us that vote, the more accountable they would conceivably have to be, at least as a founding premise. And then, of course, you have to figure out, will anyone actually hold them accountable? But I think that it is a false choice to say, is it better for more people to vote if everybody's voting uninformed? It's not the way it would work. It's not actually what would happen in practice. If you disagree with me on this one, I do want to hear from you.